first of all, I mean, my family is a Christian family, but because Palestinians face a common experience, becoming refugees in 1948 and continuing to be dispossessed, the communities very often have come together, I would say, much more closely than in other Arab countries, I would say, in the sense of the Muslim and Christian community being a bit closer. But there are a couple of things. The first is, if you think about yoga as moving meditation, the daily Muslim prayer is a moving meditation. So I don't know if you've ever seen a Muslim pray, but it's essentially sun salutations. It really is. It's standing up and coming down to a mat. Also the idea of a mat, only a prayer rug, same idea. And doing something that looks a bit like child's pose or hero's pose, and then coming back up to Tadasana. It's very much, it looks like a sun salutation on some level. Also, when you look at traditional Muslim practices, there are a lot of practices around cleanliness, which when you also study yoga philosophy, there are a lot of practices around cleanliness. I have a book that looks at Ayurveda, and I have a book that looks at Sufi healing, and they're very similar when you think about, using natural resources and natural remedies for various expressions of what we call ailments, right, or illnesses. And so, in that sense, there are a lot of commonalities. I think sometimes people can get stuck in the naming of something. You say yoga, and you think, maybe you think of fancy teachers coming from India or from the U.S., or you think of Lululemon and a nice studio with jade mats and I don't know what else. And then you think, Middle East Christians or Middle East Muslims or Middle East atheists or whatever. Yeah. You think something very different. And actually, when you get to the root of it, the practices are very similar. And, something that I can share, in terms of, coming back to yourself and coming back to roots, using nature as medicine, these are things that Arabs have been doing and Palestinians have been doing for centuries. My aunts still go to the village that we're from, where we were expelled, where we had become refugees from there. They still, because it's inside what became Israel, we can still go see it. So my aunts still go to this place, and they know exactly where to go pick certain herbs for things. And they'll pick the herbs and they use them for various foods and healing, and they know exactly what to do. And it's very much like Ayurveda, actually. The same things I learned when I was studying Ayurveda through my yoga teacher training, I found from my aunt, from my various aunts. Another interesting story, actually, when we brought these two yoga teachers to the U.S. for this training, one of them is a head-covered Muslim, so she wears the scarf, okay, which indicates that she has some level of religiosity. And so the woman from Nablus, it was brilliant. The woman from Nablus was explaining that, listen, this is about coming into yourself and meditation, and it's good for your body, it's good for your soul. It's very much like the Muslim prayer, and it prepares, you think about what yoga is. The point of yoga is to prepare you for meditation. And another way to think about meditation is a prayer, right? And so, even for myself personally, I used to be very religious. And I went through lots of questions about what God means to me, what religion means to me, what spirituality means to me. And I would say my yoga practice actually brought me closer and brought me back to my faith, in a sense, in a different way than even when I was very religious. So anyway, it was very interesting to see that actually they're not in conflict, right? There are a lot of connections, and it depends on how you define what you're doing, how you're defining yoga, and understanding what people perceive it to be, and then talk to those perceptions. But you can also say that by creating space in your mind and space in your body, you're allowing yourself to become open to whatever God wants to show you. You can call it intuition, you can call it God, you can call it, yourself, however you want to define it. I don't think that matters so much as the fact that ultimately you're creating space for whatever you want to create space for. But it's the creating space that's important. And I think translating that into a more physiological and psychological explanation, you are creating space in your mind and in your body to respond to situations that you end up in when you're living in a conflict zone, or when you're living with trauma, right?